Women who live alone, what do you keep in your home to feel safe? Friends, thank you for watching my videos, it's my pleasure. One night I had a nightmare so vivid of someone entering my apartment via my second-floor balcony that I found myself standing outside my bedroom door, disoriented and ready to fight. I had never felt unsafe in my apartment, but that dream really shook me and made me think I needed to be better prepared. I couldn't afford a security system, but I had a bunch of tiny bells left over from a craft project. I tied them at intervals along a long piece of string and hung it on the balcony door in a way that, if the door opened, it would make quite a bit of noise. Old school security alarm. My dog for tangible threats, and my cats for spiritual threats. We used to have a great guard dog. He was a 100-pound police-bred German Shepherd. He would bark his ass off if someone came to the door. He'd scare anyone off. He passed away a year ago. Now, I want a guard mountain lion, where a dog scares the bad guys off. The big cat will hide in the darkness and wait for a bad guy to get all the way in the house, then attack him. Aw, you reminded me of my old man who passed away a couple years ago. He was 100 pounds German Shepherd / boxer mix. He sounded very scary when he barks, but his true line of defense was the bulging stank eye he liked to give. He liked to look out window, even better if there was a couch by it so he can stand on it made him even taller, with the blinds covering his half of his face and all you see is his one eye just following you. People were a tad bit unnerved when they saw that. After this guy hid behind a door and kept trying find me in my building over 3 weeks, never caught. I have 2 door jams, one for my main door and one for my bedroom door as a failsafe if he gets past the front door to buy more time for emergency services to respond or to reorient myself with weapons I keep in my bedroom. You'll see in the pics the door jam was effective even when he shattered the door in half trying to gain entry one night. My dog actually saved my life. He knew he was hiding behind the door and refused to let me pass and huffed a warning. I heard him breathing through the door grate and was able to rush through before he could slam the door on my dog. Hero dog tax. Since then he now huffs to alert me when men seem to be following me and also makes a loud single bark if he hears someone at the front door. It's very helpful. My Jack Russell Terrier saved me, too. There was a guy suddenly showing up right behind me in a forest. A weird guy I had already before noticed was suddenly showing up wherever I went. But my dog wouldn't have it. She kept barking at him, circling around him, growling until he muttered something like "your dog's very aggressive," and went away. The guy never came close to me ever again. My Jackie would gladly take on a bear to protect the one she loves. She also once jumped in a creek trying to save her Labrador puppy friend, even though she's extremely afraid of water. He wasn't drowning. She just couldn't imagine anyone would jump into the water voluntarily. I usually remember to lock the doors, but that's about it. Depending on where you live, there are a lot of places that are very safe, but having a backup plan is always good. When I lived in nice neighborhoods, I would just lock the doors. I now live in the hood, so I got a gun. I also put up security lights and got a ring. I have a lot of strategically placed 3-wick jar candles. I don't actually burn them, they're there for pleasant scent and the fact that they can crack a skull. I had an incident many years ago, and as soon as you start lobbing those things your target's gonna run. I used to keep a baseball bat with a sock on the end near my bed when I lived alone. It's to give you a second chance to swing if someone grabs the bat on your first swing. They'll be staring a rando sock in their hand when you nail him in the balls or face. Thankfully, I never had to use it. Weapon, baseball bat. Enchantment, sock. Effect, prevents disarmament, provides at least 1 extra hit per roll. I've lived alone in a downtown city and out of the city. What made me feel safe in the city was living in an apartment with a door that was inside a building rather than outside. Essentially, you had to have a key or passcode in order to get in, then keys to get in my apartment. However, I lived on the first floor, so I bought a door blocker and would put it behind my door as soon as I got home. I also have a baseball bat near my bed. I would sadly also have my blinds closed. Now, in my current place, I made sure I lived on the top floor and was a 2-door building. I still have a baseball bat, but I feel safer than when I lived downtown. I no longer live alone, but when I did I was very intentional about who knew where I lived and who I brought over. Current and ex-partners are far more likely to be dangerous than random strangers. Other than that, keeping doors and windows locked and alarmed doors when needed and maintained a mantra that I've done all I could and stressing beyond that was no more helpful than being at peace. Living in fear is a prison. Lived alone with 3 kids for almost equals 15 YRS. Cameras 360 degrees around the exterior of the house with motion lights and alerts. Deadbolts on all exterior and interior doors, including interior garage door. Padlocks on the gate to my backyard. Window film and locks on all first-floor windows. Compact, modern sporting, and scatter-style defensive tools. CCW permit. Very barky dog. Pepper spray in every purse/bag, on my keychain, and work lanyard. Disabled the auto unlock feature on my vehicles. Kept my garage clear so I could park in my garage rather than on the driveway/street. Good front and rear dash cam with sentry/parking mode feature engaged. App on my phone to check in with a trusted family member each day. 2-way, got to know my next door and across the way neighbors and made a habit of letting them know when I would be traveling, expecting visitors, etc. We are blessed to have had the same neighbors on 3 sides for 10 plus years. This all evolved over time as I learned from my own and others' experiences. When I met my now husband, he was at first taken aback, but now is as security focused as me, and we've got his mom set up with similar systems and tools. I live alone, but it's in a small studio apartment in a secured building. Even though the building is secured, I lock my front door no matter how long I'm gone for. That means taking out the trash, going down the hall to pick up my laundry, etc. Door is always locked. Something I also do that I noticed my guy friends don't do is I check the peephole before opening the door at all times. A few security measures, but frankly, it's so safe in this little town where I live, Denmark, that I can leave my bicycle fully loaded with groceries while I pop in at another store or at the library, and everything will still be there when I get back out. Hell, I've even forgot to lock my front door for a few days every now and then, and absolutely nothing happened. The only 2 times that I've had something serious happen, it was someone close to me that was the cause. So I'm not particularly worried about my safety in my place in general, but I've gotten a lot more picky about who I let in. Same, small town in New Zealand. I've been forgetful enough to leave doors or windows open overnight, or leave the car unlocked in the driveway for days in a row. I don't necessarily live alone, but I am home alone for 90% of the time because my parents work. I live in a prominently public neighborhood and we constantly have homeless people walking around. We've had multiple car break-ins as well. So to stay safe, we've installed metal front door instead of wooden ones. Our home is surrounded by 8+ cameras and I also sleep with my bedroom door locked. Had to leave my place and call the cops because my roommate turned violent on me. Won't go into it, but it was bad. Kicked her out and never saw her again, but I was broke and couldn't move right away, so I lived in fear as she knew where I lived and did show up a couple times. I installed a canary camera that sent me notification alerts, so I would know if she'd show up even when I was gone and could document it, and I had a really cheap door alarm, the kind you could totally get at the dollar store, but man did it work. Every time the door opened, it would beep, have 30 seconds to put in the code, and if you didn't, the pain of that high-pitched alarm, think fire alarm but higher pitched, would send anyone running. Luckily moved shortly after to a place with a doorman and got a wonderful dog who has a bark that's big for his size and a great deterrent. Actually, I bet it annoys the neighbors, haha. Also, always put a door jamb on the sliding door. People forget this a lot, but don't. It's easier to climb up a couple stories via balconies than people think. I got a Vivint security camera system installed. When it gets dark at night, I turn on my front porch and back porch lights on. In my bedroom, I keep a large hunting knife and a metal bat in my room close to my bed. Lastly, I have a tiny pug who has major little dog syndrome. If someone were to try and snoop around my house or try to break in, she would bark and alert me. If I am living alone, I live in an apartment/condo complex. I refuse to live on the first floor. Oddly, subground basements are okay if you keep the blinds closed, and most people assume it's just a basement on an apartment building. I keep my keys in my hand when walking to the front and my door. My keychain is weighty and pointy as all get out. I walk with my head up and with purpose, and I don't let delivery people see inside when they come. I am just a door, and with no indications that I have interesting stuff, I'm not bothered with. Too much work for unknown reward. Not me, but my godmother. She lived alone, in an area where crimes like breaking in were common. She had 2 dogs, a Czechoslovakian wolf dog and a retired police dog, German Shepherd. The wolf dog was sweet as pie, but the Shepherd had real big scars on his face and was generally very scary. He would literally bite anyone's head off who didn't knock on the door or wasn't her. Deadbolts. Pretty much it, but we do have those mag light flashlights at front and back door that feel like they weigh 10 lbs. They are there in case we need to trek over to the garage at night, but I'm sure they could pack a wallop if needed. So my neighbor is this random single middle-aged guy, and all he does is sit at his door and smoke and drink. Anyone who comes to my unit has to go past his door. To anybody else, he comes across very creepy due to the sitting at his front door watching people come and go. When I first moved in, and I was freaked out and was so worried he'd try and break in or something. But he's always been nothing but friendly to me. Once I had a package delivered to my door and they didn't hide, they just left it plain in the open. When I got home, he was sat on his doorstep as usual, and he let me know I had a package waiting and said he was keeping an eye on it to make sure no one pinched it. Another time his sister and mom were over and they were so friendly and introduced themselves to me when I had walked by. When I was away over Christmas, I asked if he could put my bins out for me on the curb on bin night, and he said, yeah, definitely, but I don't want to overstep or anything. I don't want to get in trouble, so I feel like he is just severely misunderstood. Anyway, my point to this is, get an intimidating looking neighbor who's always home to guard your house.